Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1932 pre-code crime noir film, I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang.
He's tired, Mother. Excited. You don't know what you're saying. But tomorrow morning, after a good night's sleep, you'll be ready to take up where you left off.
Hey, well, that's not completely true. I mean, I do feel like I'm tired all the time, but I also feel like I'm right some of the time, though I am married, so maybe that is not correct. If this is your first time joining me, I'm reviewing every movie in this book, The 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang was nominated for Best Picture and Best Actor at the Academy Awards. Best Actor was for Paul Muni's portrayal of James Allen, and James Allen was based off a real person named Robert Elliott Burns. In fact, this entire movie is based off a true story. It is a critique of the justice system and the harsh realities of the American penal system, specifically chain gangs. Now, when this movie came out, it was incredibly controversial. It caused a huge stir and real-world reactions, and it actually led to the abolishment of some chain gangs in some states because it showed just how unjust and unfair they were. In fact, Robert Elliott Burns had escaped a chain gang and escaped prison and was on the run when this movie came out. And after it came out, he was pardoned because everyone got to see that he was not guilty and that he was treated terribly while he was on these chain gangs. And I think it's incredible that this movie had the power to pardon this man and to set him free. Now, when this movie opens up, James Allen is returning to civilian life from World War I, where he won a Medal of Bravery. And before he was in the war, he worked at a factory, and he was content working at the factory. But after he came home, he had all this pent-up frustration in him, where he wanted to make things with his hands, and he wanted to make a real impact in the world, and he wanted to show that his life meant something, and he did not want to work in a factory anymore. So, against his parents' wishes, he decided to go off on his own into the world, travel the United States, and try to be an engineer or a construction worker or something where he could use his hands to make things. The only problem is as he was doing his travels, he realized that a lot of people were doing the same thing, and he had a very hard time getting a job, and he slipped more and more into poverty as time went on. And eventually he ends up, I believe it's like an Atlanta, Georgia type environment, where he runs into another person who's also down on his luck. I guess before he does this, he tries to sell his Medal of Bravery, which is actually very sad. He goes to a guy and he says, "Hey, I'm down on my luck, I need money, I want to sell my medal." And the guy has this case. He's like, "Hey, look, bud, I have a bunch of medals here that all these soldiers are trying to sell. I can't use yours." And that's so sad how we treat, or how they used to treat soldiers who are coming home, who need a helping hand, who need help getting back into society, reacclimate into society, and we just kind of toss them away, and they're forced to sell these medals of bravery that they got because they're protecting our lives and protecting our country. It's just sad. I don't know if that's still the case because I don't have any family in the service, so I don't know how it is when they come home. But that really moved me. That really touched me. The fact that he is pretty much forgotten by the world, and so are all these other soldiers who had to sell their medals. It was so sad. But anyway, he ends up running into this guy at a diner, and this guy says, "Look, you look like you're down on your luck. I can get you a free hamburger. I know the diner owner, and if you just go up to him and you beg him, and you tell him you're hungry, he's a softie and he'll make you a hamburger." So James says, "That's a great idea. Let's go get this hamburger." But when they get there, the guy that James is with decides he wants to hold up the diner with a gun, and he pulls James into the holdup with him, and he ends up running away from the cops, and the cops shoot him, leaving James by himself. They arrest James for the burglary. I think maybe they got him on like an attempted murder or something. Even though he didn't do anything, he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they put him on a chain gang, which of course he's not used to being on this. It's back-breaking work in the hot sun, where you're just taking a pickaxe and you're kind of breaking boulders and you're singing, and it's just very labor intensive, very hard work is what he's doing. and he decides he's going to escape one day. So he is able to escape the chain gang, and when he gets back to regular life, he becomes a very skilled engineer where he rises through the ranks of building. I think he's building like bridges or dams or something, and he rises through the ranks. And this reminds me of a movie that I just reviewed called Freedom for Us. It actually has a very similar plot in which there was a gentleman who escapes from prison, and after he escapes, I think he owns like a factory that makes records. But just like in Freedom for Us, James Allen becomes a pillar of the community. He provides a great service to the community, building these bridges and building these dams and being an engineer. And he really shows that he's reformed and that he's not going to commit any more crimes, and that he's actually providing something to the city, which is what the guy in Freedom for Us did too. But that movie was, I'm going to go into some details here, but that movie was harder to watch than this one, I would say. But James Allen ends up meeting a girl, and they fall in love, and this girl knows what he did, and she says, if you ever leave me, I'm going to turn you into the cops, and I'm going to tell them that you escaped prison, and they're going to rearrest you. Now, of course, James Allen ends up falling in love with someone else, and the girl he's with tells the cops that he is this escaped prisoner, and they capture him. Now, the difference with this movie that I really liked than the other movie, Freedom for Us, is that when they capture him, his lawyer argues, hey, look, he is a pillar of the community. He is providing this service. He is a great engineer. He's reformed. He's not going to commit any crimes. This is not the kind of person you want to put back in jail, because he's actually important to our community, and he's someone that we need. We need his company that he has. We need his service that he provides. He's very important to the everyday workings of the city, and it would be detrimental to put him back in prison. This is not something they argued in Freedom for Us. They didn't mention it at all. They just kind of were going to put him back in prison because that's what they were supposed to do. But in this movie, there is that moral argument where, if you're trying to reform him, if that's the whole reason for putting him in prison, that he's reformed, he's fine. He's not going to do anything bad or evil again. He's just going to build bridges, and that's what we want. Now, they cut him a deal. They said, okay, we understand that you're reformed, so you just got to go back for 90 days. You won't be on the chain gang again, and we'll let you out after the 90 days. Now, the problem that James Allen runs into is while he is awaiting going back to prison, he decides he's going to speak out against the chain gangs and talk about how mean and cruel and unjust they actually are. And his argument, I think, is that if you're trying to reform a prisoner and acclimate them back into society, the chain gang is not the way to go, because it doesn't teach you any real-world skills. You're just out there banging a axe against a rock, and it's backbreaking, it's in the heat, you're treated terribly, you're treated like a dog, you're treated like a terrible, horrible person, and then if they let you back into society, you're not going to be able to perform there because you're not actually getting reformed. Now, of course, the prisoner, the lawyer for the prisoner said, well, look, James Allen is reformed. He went on the chain gang. He's an engineer now. He's like this pillar of the community. So that's an argument for the chain gang, is that he is in society now, and before he was a hardened criminal who held up a diner, who tried to kill someone. He had no path in life. He had no goals. He had no direction. And now look at him. He's an engineer. And so there's an argument on both sides. Now, of course, James Allen didn't actually commit a crime. He wasn't a hardened criminal. But that's not their argument. That's not the argument they're going to use. But anyway, he goes back to prison, and he finds out that he was lied to since he spoke out against the chain gang. They decided to be even more harsh on him, so they put him in an even worse chain gang that's even harder, that's even more backbreaking, that has more hardened criminals in it. Now, he meets a guy that he knew in the previous chain gang that he was on, and they end up escaping in this very fantastic car chase. It's more like a truck chase, I think, but it's on the edge of your seat thrills, this truck chase, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And he ends up escaping once again, and I believe that's where the movie leaves off. I don't I don't think it goes into any more detail. He just escapes after that, and he's kind of gone. And I think that's where Robert Elliott Burns' life was kind of at when the movie came out, is that he was still on the run and they were still looking for him. Now, I'm going to say that I absolutely love this movie. I thought Paul Muni was exceptional. I really like how, like I said before, I really like how they talk about how he shouldn't be rearrested because he has done his dues and he is a pillar of the community. That was something that was really frustrated with Freedom for Us, because I thought it was something that they should mention or something that they should talk about, and they didn't say anything about it at all. And it's definitely worth mentioning, I felt like. And it's just amazing that the power of movies, that this movie had the power to get this gentleman pardoned and he didn't have to be on the run anymore. And I mean, I'm sure he got some sort of compensation for the city for being arrested when he didn't actually deserve to be arrested. But this just shows how powerful something like this can be, and I am all for it. I think that this movie was fantastic. The acting was great, the cinematography was great, the script was amazing. There's not a whole lot about this movie that I didn't like. I guess if I had to critique anything, I wasn't a huge fan of James Allen's first love interest that he had, the female who eventually gives him up. I thought she was kind of annoying. I thought the character as a whole was kind of annoying. But besides that, I would say I thought this movie was really solid. It's better, a lot better than I thought it would be. I really didn't have any expectations going into it, and I thought it was really good. I give it a 9 out of 10. And I hope you join me next time when I review the first movie I've ever seen with Maurice Chevalier. I've seen him in a lot of things that involve Lucille Ball and I Love Lucy, but my first movie I've ever seen with him, it is called Love Me Tonight. It is a musical. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.